Colton Herta driving the number 26 Gainbridge Honda for Andretti Global, beginning his seventh full season in the NTT INDYCAR Series. 2 wins last year, including his, as we all know, first on an oval at Nashville Superspeedway. The Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, presented by RP Funding, will mark his 100th start in the NTT INDYCAR Series. It went by just like that, right?
It's crazy, yeah,
like that. Looking for this could be things are picking up for you. Daytona, right? Tomorrow, and then
leave for Daytona tomorrow, do the
testing.
Roar, and then we're back testing and got a test at the end of the month, and then a test at Sebring before the season
How
kicks
much do
off.
you look forward just to get back into a routine here?
That's all I want to do. That's all I want to do. So it's a shame that we have to stop for winter. I wish it was year round.
Just hang out in Indianapolis for a while. You'll
Right. I think everybody's excited to get down there for the Roar and whatnot.
Exactly. All right, questions in person for Colton Herta. We'll start with Tony there in the back row, and then Steve Wittich after that.
I think it's crazy that 100 starts at the age of 24. It's gone by fast, as mentioned. I don't think there was any driver that wanted to see last year's season end less than you did, because 6 out of your last 7 races were inside of the top 5. You win that oval, but what did you learn in a lot of different disciplines, right? You had the short oval, you had Toronto, you had Gateway, you had Portland, Nashville, a bunch of different drives. What did you learn about yourself over that last couple of races that really put you up towards a championship and obviously finishing second overall?
Yeah, I think the missing piece for us has always been kind of the short ovals, medium length ovals. We've been good on super speedways for the most part, but that was kind of the missing piece for us, especially when you look at the championship for our years, that we dropped a lot of points in those places. But we turned it around, having a podium and basically a double top 5 one top 5 in Milwaukee, and pole in Iowa. Gateway, we came from 26th or 25th to 4th, and the win in Nashville. So we kind of improved a lot on those medium and shorter ovals. And that was kind of the difference maker for us. So that fills me with a lot of confidence, because, I don't think our problem has really ever been the street courses, and for the most part, most of the road courses we were very good at. But those ovals have kind of, for me too, just haven't been my best, and I think they started to show that they can be some of my best for this coming year.
Steve,
championship or bust this year? Is anything less?
It's always like that, yeah. I mean, I'm not happy to finish. It really sucks to finish second. As nice as it is for that being my highest place, but it really sucks to be that close and not do it. So it is always kind of need to get that championship. And this year's no different. That's what we're working for.
Is there something you guys have worked on together, as a team?
Yeah.
Get better?
Yeah, I mean, it's countless things. But, at the end of the year, I think just like everybody, we go through race by race, session by session, and then we kind of pick out a few points of things that we did right and things that we did wrong, and try to replicate the things that we did right and try to right the wrongs. So it's a long off season of that. There's a few things that I worked on in the off season, just looking through stuff that I thought I was a little bit weak in.
Let's go Nathan, then David Land after that. Nathan,
where is that gap, you feel like, to Alex? I mean, he was only 31 points up the road. I'm sure you can find a point here, a point there, lots of races. But when you look at that season as a whole, where's that final step for you to get to series championship contention?
Yeah, it's pretty easy. There's 4 things last year. Crash at Indy, crash in Detroit, missing the yellow in Iowa race 2 when Alex crashed, and the right front coming off Milwaukee. So those are the big things that we're kind of looking at. And 2 of those are my problem, and 2 of those are the team. So we're trying to right that wrong. And that's something that we kind of picked out as, if one of those races goes differently from the position that I'm running in, we have a really good chance at being a champion. So we know we can do it. It's just a case of 1 or 2 things that have to change in our favor. And so those are some things that we're working on and looking at and how to fix those.
I know it's a long time coming, when you finally get that oval win at the end of the season in Nashville, I'm sure you imagined it was coming at some point, but what can that do for you from a confidence standpoint going into ovals, knowing now, I've done it, this team has done it with me, this group on my car, going into again a season that has a lot of those on the calendar?
Yeah, I mean, oval wins are definitely the hardest thing to come by because everything has to be perfect, right? You need good strategy, you need good pit stops, the car needs to be phenomenal, you need to be driving on the limit for a long time, and so yeah, it's a hard thing because everything needs to be right for you on that day, and everything was in Nashville, and we got it done. But yeah, it fills everybody with confidence. Maybe not necessarily me because I always knew like it was going to happen eventually. I knew that we could do it, and so it wasn't a surprise to me when we did. But we just need to be able to replicate it as much as possible this upcoming year.
We went through a similar storyline with you a couple years ago. You come into the season potentially with an opportunity to step up to Formula One with Cadillac and Andretti Global. If things go right, I think the position you would need to finish in to get that super license is 4th place in the championship. Is there any pressure to that, or how much are you thinking about talking about that behind the scenes?
I guess the answer to that is I didn't even know what the math was to get a super license. So if it happens, great, and then I'll have a decision to make if I'm still wanted. If it doesn't happen, then for me, I'm stuck racing Indy cars.
Fair.
I'll be all right either way.
Thanks.
I was going to say, not a bad alternative, right? So, David Land, and then we'll take a couple off Zoom. Go ahead, David.
What's the go-to order at Chili's?
Triple dipper, baby.
Attaboy. No, serious question. Have you seen the new car? Pato hasn't.
The mock-up
New
of
chassis.
the new car. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, first of all, what do you think of the looks? And second of all, what boxes does that car need to check when it gets to the racetrack?
I'll start with the second part of that question. What box does it need to check? I think it needs to be a little bit better on the super speedways than what we have right now. The racing at the front is great at Indy, and that's where the cameras are most of the time, so people don't notice it. But a little bit further back, it gets really hard to overtake. Whereas I think that's kind of what the DW12 was great at, from watching the races and hearing the guys that have run in that talk about it. So that I think that can be a little bit better. And ideally, I don't think the road and street courses need to be fixed. But ideally on the short ovals, you have it where we don't need tire deg to make the racing a factor that way. Make it where the racing is good either way. And the DW12 was really good at that because it had good racing with tire deg at Milwaukee or Iowa, and it had good racing at tracks that wouldn't provide that. And so for me as a driver, that's kind of, it's more oval focused because I don't think we have a problem overtaking on road and street courses, but some of the ovals can be a little difficult.
And the thoughts on the look?
To be honest, it was about a month ago and I saw it really quickly. I remember liking it, but I don't remember too specifically about the curves and whatnot. And like I said, it's one photo, so it's tough to see the side profiling and what the car actually looked like. But I remember liking it.
Something that you mentioned about the oval racing and something that I remember Scott Dixon bringing up at one point was, I think Scott said about the current car that it's almost like too efficient aerodynamically. Is that kind of the sense that you have? Is that's something that could be changed?
Yeah, I mean, the efficiency is somewhat of a problem, but I think it's also kind of works in some ways too. The more downforce you add to a car, especially over the top, the better the slipstreaming is going to be, and the better the passing is going to be in that aspect, and you'll be able to follow a little bit closer. So that's the whole thing for me is getting to add downforce. We did that at Gateway, and look how good the racing was this year. It's a lot better. I mean, I drove from 25th to 4th. I wasn't going to be able to do that the year before, but the second lane opened up, and so something that's I guess more efficient over the top of the car with the wings is better than more efficient underneath. And a lot of people are saying like, oh, well, the dirty air is going to be worse and whatnot, and it might be a little bit. But the more downforce we have, the more that's going to open up the second lane. So if you're not behind a car in the second lane, it doesn't matter about how disruptive the car in front is. And it'll never be a problem on super speedways. It'll be more of a problem on short ovals if that does become a problem. But seeing how Gateway raced, I don't think that's the case.
Thanks.
We have time for two very quick ones off of Zoom. Archie O'Reilly, you go first, and then Jack Binion, stand by. Archie, go ahead.
Cheers, Dave. Colton, just briefly kind of pivoting back to the talk of Cadillac and F1, you've kind of previously mentioned age as a factor when it comes to that entry point. Is that still a concern for you, or do you kind of feel in a position to make that step if the opportunity arose?
I don't really have a concern with it at all. I kind of been like dragged around in this talk for feels like half a decade now. And I've had the carrot in front of me for a while. So I'm kind of tired of that being the case. And I just want to drive at this point and focus on IndyCar this year and focus on winning the championship. And if something arises out of that, I had to think about it. It's still not a for sure thing. All my friends and family are here in the U.S. and I don't know anybody where I'm going. So it's a big decision to make if I have
Thanks,
to make
Colton.
a decision.
Best of luck for the year.
Thank you.
Okay, Archie, thank you. Jack Binion from the race. Go ahead, Jack.
Hey, Colin. Just wondered if you could talk a little bit about how the team's changed over the off-season and how that might kind of apply to how sort of this next year goes. I know there's a lot of positivity in the team about the changes, not necessarily just it seems like the drivers are really positive about the changes there could be.
Yeah. Obviously, it was really nice having Felix and having David and Tom last year. I think they provided some great data for me to look at to make myself better. So that was a positive thing that we lose. But overall, going into this year, I think it changes nothing for us, setup-wise. I think we provided a lot of that. So, as far as that goes, I think we'll be fine without them for that side of things, but more just for the driver's side, it was nice having that data. But it's also something that my teammates that are very competent in the car can provide to me too. And it's a group that I really like working with. And I'm not just saying that because Marcus is in the back of the room here, but he's a great teammate, and as well as Kyle.
Thanks, Colin.